Hey guys, Jonathan LaCour, and we're here to talk about a couple of topics for workers' compensation. Like, what should you do within the first 24 hours of your workplace injury? Can you get fired? And ultimately, why you need an experienced attorney like us. So let's start with the first topic. What do you need to do within the first 24 hours of getting injured on the job? Well, this may seem obvious, but first you need to report the injury, and immediately. Even if the injury is super slight, you need to report it, because failing to report it could be used against you within the workers' compensation claim. The next thing you need to do, as step 2, is get medical treatment. If you were in a car accident and you broke your leg, you'd immediately go to the doctor. So why is it any different if you get injured at work? Make the record and go straight to the doctor so that you can be treated and we can get a diagnosis of what happened to you at work. After that, you're going to need information for the insurance. Your employer is required to provide something called a DWC-1 form. The DWC-1 form is a form that provides all of the insurance information and serves as a record of your injury from that day. The employer is obligated to provide that within 24 hours of you providing them notice of that injury. And the last step is that you document, because it's super important that you make record of the correspondence with your employer, you're documenting the injuries, and you have pictures of the site at the time that the injury occurred, because we are going to use that to max the value of your claim. The next subject is whether or not you need a lawyer for your workers' compensation case. Now, there are a couple of instances where you might not need a lawyer. Let's say that your injury was super minor. You scraped yourself, you fell down, and there's just a little bit of a sprain. You may not need a lawyer for that. If you're not missing any work or you're going immediately back to work, you may not need a lawyer for that. But you definitely need a lawyer if your claim is denied, if you're not getting the medical care that you need, or if your injury is very serious. We had a client that had an industrial door slide down and hit him in the head. And unfortunately, he also sustained a neck injury. He's thinking that the neck injury is the most significant part of his claim, not fully understanding that as a result of being hit on the head, he sustained a traumatic brain injury. And the insurance company, wouldn't you know it, they're not getting him treatment for that, and they're trying to sweep it under the rug. So we came in, we were able to get him treatment for a neuropsych, and his treatment is going much better. The final reason why you might need a workers' compensation lawyer is if your benefits are being delayed or cut off. The workers' compensation system has been taken over by these insurance companies who, let's face it, unfortunately have an incentive to delay your treatment. So sometimes you need a lawyer to request that there be a hearing so that the court can decide whether or not you get that treatment. And that's the reasons why you might need a workers' compensation lawyer. A lot of times, our clients are super concerned about whether or not their employer can retaliate or even fire them for filing a workers' compensation claim. And I'm here to tell you that that cannot happen. Here at Employees First Labor Law, we are one of the very few firms that do workers' compensation and employment law. And if your employer fires you for getting injured on the job, you might be the luckiest person ever, and we're gonna go buy you a new house. Results are not guaranteed. Your employer cannot fire you or retaliate against you for getting injured on the job or filing a workers' compensation claim. And I want to tell you about 2 separate types of claims that you might have if that happens. In the workers' compensation system, there's something called a 132A claim. That prevents an employer from taking any retaliatory actions against you for filing a workers' comp claim. On the civil side, your employer has an obligation to engage in a good faith interactive process to accommodate you if you're back at work and working. And that accommodation could be time off from work. So let's recap. You have rights to a workers' compensation claim, and your employer cannot retaliate against you for filing workers' comp. If you're injured, your employer has an obligation to engage in a good faith interactive process and to accommodate you so that you can go back to work if you want to work. If this is happening to you, reach out to us and we'll do everything we can to help you in this process. Thanks.